Port Phillip Bay is almost an inland sea with just a 3.5 kilometre wide entrance at the heads. Despite its size though, the bay has very few islands. So few that you could just about visit them all in a day. Today we're doing a Day on the Bay special and I've got some friends here to help us out. Guest presenter Lisa Williams and our fearless leader, producer of Victoria's Islands, Richard Brown, who's also a keen scuba diver. Guys, what are we going to be seeing today?
Today I'll take you through the nooks and crannies of historical South Channel Fort.
And we'll all be going on an undersea diving adventure at Pope's Eye, one of Melbourne's iconic diving sites.
And in between all that, I'm going to be visiting Mud Island, but without further ado, it's time to cast off and get out of here because we've got a lot to see.
Adjacent to South Channel in Port Phillip, the fort is just 6 kilometres northeast of Sorrento and 13 kilometres northwest of Queenscliff. The fort was one of 3 built in the 1880s to protect Port Phillip Bay from naval attacks. Fort Nepean and Fort Queenscliff complete the trio, positioned to keep enemy ships in a triangle of fire between the heads. The fort's secret tunnels were reopened to the public in April last year. The fort is a labyrinth of passages and rooms, and Neil Walker, our guide from Chimney Rock Charters, just happens to have the keys to the kingdom. What do you reckon? Shall we take a look around?
Let's do it, shall we?
From the 1890s to 1916, many officers, both engineers and artillerymen, lived here and ran the fort. The base of the artificial island was built using 14,000 tonnes of bluestone rock. The fort was then constructed on top using concrete, timber and sand. While the interior has been largely stripped of wooden floors and framework, the mass concrete has kept it largely intact, and the sturdy structure still stands today.
And here we have the engine room where they had a steam-powered engine to drive the electric generators.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
So we'll move down this way. These are the magazine rooms where they store the ammunition for the disappearing guns.
Right. Now when you said magazine room, I thought Men's Health, Cosmopolitan, not so?
Not so, no, this is where all the ammunition was stored.
Well, my military knowledge leaves a little bit to be desired, but can I take a look?
Yep, be my guest.
The maze of passages, small lobbies, even the kitchen, was laid out to ensure the efficient handling of gunpowder underground. Now this room behind me is what's known as the test room. This is where the officers would control the minefield that was carefully constructed between the Port Phillip heads. Anytime they thought they were under attack, they could electronically detonate a mine to sink an enemy ship. It's pretty impressive. It may not look so impressive now, but while it was operational, the room was laid out with shutterboards of circuitry that mapped out the minefield. Our very own James Bond set in Port Phillip Bay. Who knew?
And here, Lisa, this is the barracks. This is where all the officers used to sleep.
Okay. Now I read that at any given time there would have been up to 100 men running this fort, and they all slept in that room?
They all slept in this room here.
Goodness me.
It's not very big.
No, it's not. And now I remember when I was back on school camps, 5 men in one room. You'd keep a 100-metre radius of the place at all times. 100.
100
in one room.
Officers, this is where they slept.
Oh goodness, I hope the showers were close by. To see the island from the best point of view, you'll need to climb to the top of the battery observation post. Oh. And don't mind the noise, we'll get to the culprit shortly. Built in 1905 to protect the fort commander from gunfire, it offers a panoramic view of the island and Port Phillip Bay. As you can see, the fort's nooks and crannies are an important refuge for seabirds. and an integral breeding ground for one in particular, the white-faced storm petrel. It is one of its 3 known breeding sites and is the second largest of the 3 known colonies. The colourful waters around the fort are a hotspot for scuba divers, but I think we'll keep ourselves dry for Pope's Eye. Keep following the walkways around the 7-hectare island and you'll come across this big guy. Now Neil, this is an impressive piece of machinery behind us. What have we got and what was it used for?
This is the disappearing guns, 2 located here on South Channel Fort, and this is gun emplacement number 4. The gun was mounted across there and used to use hydraulic equipment to raise the gun for firing and then lower the gun for reloading.
Okay, and then once it's reloaded they could pop it back up again, fire
And
it
fire,
off and bring
yes.
it back down.
So
It's well camouflaged.
it is, but very impressive state-of-the-art machinery.
Reloading below the line of fire meant protection for the officers, while having retractable guns meant the entire battery could be hidden from view of enemy ships when not in use. The 8-inch disappearing guns on South Channel Fort were among the earliest ever built or installed, and the one we've just seen is one of only 2 remaining in Australia. There is believed to be no other man-made, sand-covered shoal fort in any of the imperial defences. Oh, there's a little one nesting in that little patch there.
Sitting on the edge.
Yeah. The increased efficiency of defence machinery and the forts at Nepean and Queenscliff found South Channel Fort redundant, and around 1919 it was deserted. Nowadays, it's run by these guys. Don't they let you know about it?
Coming up next, I visit a small group of islands in Port Phillip Bay that are being held in place by bird droppings. Really? Are you serious? Situated near the heads of Port Phillip Bay and 5.5 kilometres from the mainland is a small and unique group of islands called Mud Islands. However, I wouldn't rush straight down here with your togs and your towel just yet. Because of its positioning and shallow warm waters, Mud Islands also attracts bronze whaler sharks to the area for breeding in the summer months, some of which can be anything up to 3 metres. Neil Walker, you're our skipper for the day. We've just been cruising around the outskirts of Mud Islands, trying to find a good spot to toss in the anchor, and I want to keep my clothes dry, so it looks like I'm going to have to nude up for the camera.
Yes, and the water's about 1/2 metre deep here.
That's all right, well, it worked for Paris Hilton.
Yep, and you'll need to wear these.
What are these for?
They're for the crabs.
I'm going to leave that one alone. It's not the kind of place that you come to go bush bashing, but instead sit back at a distance and marvel at one of nature's finest operating ecosystems. Despite its name, Mud Islands is mostly made up of shelly sand, but it's more than just a bunch of sandbanks. It's a fragile ecosystem for plants and bird life. But what I find most interesting about this group of islands is what's hidden in the centre, a shallow, tidal lagoon. Now Neil, I grew up holidaying on the Mornington Peninsula with my family, and like many people, I believed that Mud Island was singular, Mud Island, but it's actually Mud Islands plural, isn't it? Because there's 3 of them.
There is, and the 2,500 metres off the island is protected by the marine parks in Parks Victoria.
Here's an interesting fact for all the town planning gurus out there. The Mud Islands are actually formed by wave and wind action. And you'd think over time that the weather would just wash them away, but it's far from the truth. They're held in place by phosphate rock, which is formed by guano, otherwise known as bird droppings. And that's what I call innovative housekeeping. Neil, considering how many thousands of birds live here, it's just unbelievably peaceful.
It is.
You can just look out at the scenery there, and as you're taking in the atmosphere, you can almost hear the island speak to you. Hello, Neil. Shh. Well, as we've seen, there's a lot of birds in the area, and it does smell a little bit funky too. I've learnt a lot about migratory birds since starting this show. Tell me, how far away do some of these guys come from?
The islands provide habitat and feeding grounds for birds that come far away as Siberia or Japan, and they do that trip annually.
It's a long way.
It is a long way.
Yeah, I'd get tired arms.
Yeah. The islands are a central breeding area for colonies of pelicans, ibis, terns, cormorants and royal spoonbills, storm petrel and silver gulls. The major species of bird here on the island are silver gulls, straw-necked ibis and Australian white ibis. Also, the lagoon is visited by thousands of waders through the warmer months.
The guano was mined in the 1860s and 70s, which was quite controversial at the time as to the possible side effects it had on the island. One thing's for sure, it drove away the entire species of silver gulls to Port Melbourne, and ironically, over a century later, when the industrial development of Port Melbourne kicked off, they returned in their droves. A prime example of what our native animals go through in order to stay alive.
Coming up next, we go for a dive to Pope's Eye. Pope's Eye, or the annulus, is the uncompleted foundation for an island fort intended to defend the entrance to Port Phillip Bay. It's named after a naval midshipman and located 3 kilometres east of Queenscliff and 5 kilometres north of Portsea. This is a dive site in Melbourne that's typically used in the afternoons when divers go out in the mornings, do a deep dive, and they come to this sheltered area to do their decompression and have a nice shallow easy dive. I'm here with our dive instructor Daryl. Daryl's going to take the 3 of us on a dive very shortly. So Daryl, what are the sort of things we expect to see down there?
Hopefully we come across a cuttlefish while we're down there, maybe a bull ray. You do get rays around here. Nudibranchs, which are little sea slugs, very tiny and can be difficult to find. The spiny fins.
Now they're the ones that come at you and have a little go at you, aren't they?
They are, yeah. So you just got to keep your fingers sort of tucked in. They will come at you.
But we're in a marine conservation park here, aren't we? So we shouldn't be touching things?
That's correct, yeah. Because it is a marine park, we're not allowed to touch anything in the park, take anything from the park, or no fishing or anything like that.
So the saying goes, I think, isn't it? Take only pictures, but leave only bubbles. Is that right?
That's correct, yeah.
Okay, well, let's gear up. You're going to give us a diving brief and we'll get down. I can't wait to get my head wet.
Okay, let's go. So today we're going to head down onto the dive site and have a look. When we first get into the water, we're going to do a giant stride off the rear of the boat here. So just a nice big step off the boat. Make sure you've got some air in your BCD so you don't sink straight away. And a big OK signal back to the boat. Okay. Then we're going to head over to the rocks there. And we'll descend down at that point there. It's around about 2 metre steps there. And just follow the rocks around. When we get to that, to the point at the end of the rocks, the bottom there slopes, is a gradual slope down. So we're just going to follow the bottom and use the bottom as a reference point to descend down. Just these ones go around it.
Construction began in the 1880s by dumping bluestone boulders on a 12-metre deep submerged sandbank until a horseshoe-shaped artificial reef was formed, just above the high water level. This blue-throat wrasse is the largest wrasse in the bay. It's also known to fishermen as kelpie and winter bream. This pair of yellow striped leather jackets have a yellow stripe along its body with an orange patch towards the tail. They're also called filefish as the skin is covered with small prickly scales, giving it a file-like appearance. They also have a series of barbs and spines for protection.
The Admiralty anchor was located in September 2010 in the South Channel during routine inspections following the project to deepen the channel. This Admiralty anchor was raised and then relocated to Pope's Eye at the depth of around 10 metres on the 19th of November 2010. It creates the ideal opportunity for an undersea photograph. This school of sea sweeps are generally seen around jetties, piers and around shallow rocky areas, of which Pope's Eye is a classic location. The smaller sea sweeps are disliked by sea fishermen as bait thieves. Scaly fins, or spiny fins, are highly variable in colour as adults, from grey to black or yellow to orange, with light bars on the face and a row of light dots along the body. As most members of the damselfish, they aggressively guard their eggs and will readily nip your fingers to protect their babies. Large males turn a darker shade when on guard duty. Moonlighters are often mistaken for the butterfly species, but instead belong to the smaller family of sweepers. The shore's cowfish are members of the boxfish family. Males have spots along their belly and females have stripes. Boxfish have numerous spines and spikes to avoid becoming food for the larger species. These are old wives. They can be seen in schools, but as here, they're often seen in pairs. They're fairly common in Port Phillip Bay, and particularly at Pope's Eye. The front dorsal fins carry a venom in the spikes of the fin, which can cause severe pain. Another reason for not touching our marine life. Now it is time to leave for the surface, leaving behind the marvellous undersea world. We're taking only pictures and leaving only bubbles.
Well, that's it for our Victoria's Island special, A Day on the Bay. Thank you very much to my co-presenters today, Richard Brown and Lisa Williams. Kaz will be back next week, so we hope that you can join us again for another fantastic adventure.
Don't forget to follow us on Facebook, fb.me/Vic Islands, and check us out on Twitter @Vic Islands, all one word.
Make sure you visit our website, victoriasislands.tv.
That's it for now. Bye.